Hi, and welcome to this ultimate guide for making sci-fi UI sound effects. This is actually the second video in the series. I actually made a first one, which is a lot more beginner friendly, a lot more basic. So if you want to see that, or if you haven't checked it out yet, I'll put a link in the description so you can go check it out rather after this video, or if you want to check it out right now, you can go and check it out now and then come back to this video. But in this video, what I want to do is share some other techniques, some other ways that you can create some sci-fi UI sounds. So these are going to be a little bit more advanced or just different. There's so many different ways that you can create sci-fi UI sounds, and there's no like right or wrong way or right or wrong approach to doing it. So in this video, I just want to share with you some other techniques, some other things that have worked for me and ways that I've used to create some sci-fi sound. So with that said, that's what we're going to do in this video. But before we jump into it, if you're new here and are a sound designer, I have a gift for you. It's my sound designer starter pack. That's a big sound pack of over 900 sounds that you can use in your personal or commercial projects. So if you want some sounds to help you get started in video game sound design, there's everything from like UI sounds, monster sounds, spell sounds, ambient sounds. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. So if you're interested in picking that up, make sure to check the link in the description below. All right, with that said, let's get into our project. All right, so here we are inside of Reaper, and the first technique that I want to show you for creating some sci-fi UI sounds is going to be using a synth. And so here I'm going to be using Faceplant. And the technique that we're actually going to use is to import sounds as wavetables. So Faceplant can do this. I also know that Serum can do it. But yeah, I'll have to check if other synths can do that. But those are the two that I know that do it. So inside of Faceplant here, what we're going to do is we're just going to click on this little edit button to edit the wavetable. I'm going to File, then Create from Sample. And from here, we're going to be able to choose a different, whatever file that we have on our computer to load here as a sample. So I'm going to do that right now. All right, so here is a file that I've picked out. It's just a recording of like a little toy car that I had. So I could record that and I put it into here. And this is the file here. And what you'll see here is that some parts are like very quiet and some parts are loud. So you might want to experiment with this. So I'm just going to leave that here for now, but we might come back into here and where you can do some fixes where you can normalize certain peaks or frame peaks and stuff like that. So I'm just going to leave it like that for now. And if we play it, you'll see that nothing is happening, and the reason for that is because, one, it's kind of quiet, but two is also because you're not actually looking and scrolling through the sound file. So if we look here, you can see we have a bit of a louder sound. So, right, so here is like a really basic, if you want some really basic beep sounds and stuff, right, you can get stuff like that. I wanted something a bit more interesting. So what I like to do here is I'm going to load an LFO. Here you can play around with different shapes. So I'm just going to go like really simple for now. And I'm going to assign this to the frame so that we can kind of scan through this and see what we get. I'm going to slow it down a little bit here, and we might play with the speed. Here we go. All right, so the sound is a little bit harsh. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into the fixes. I'm going to go global peaks just to see if that changes anything. Might try to change maybe frame peaks. All right, so that's interesting. I might be able to play with that. Here, again, you'll probably want to add some sort of effects. Usually stuff like chorus, flanger, even phaser, and like ensemble can be like really good effects for depending on what you're trying to create here. So I'm just going to I'm actually going to choose a different one here, a different LFO. I'm going to choose this one here. I'm going to really slow it down. All right, here I'm changing the frame and how much modulation I'm doing here. And I changed the envelope here so that there's not much there's no sustain. It's just going to be a nice decay here. Right, and with that, I can kind of scan through here and see if I can find some cool sounds. Right, so that is a really fun way that you can kind of experiment, especially with the different sound sources that you have. One that works really well that I found is using your voice. So here is a sample that I've imported into here, same thing here. I did the edit, insert a sample, and this is actually a voice recording that I created, and it's just like me. I think I was doing some sort of like creature sound or monster sound. So you can kind of hear that like my voice in there, but if you play it like higher, right, you can get these like really cool like servo or like whirring kind of sounds. Right, you can get a lot of cool different textures into here. So yeah, experiment with playing with it, like your voice, experiment playing with like different source and sound recording, and you can get a lot of really cool sounds in here. And it's just a lot of fun because you can always experiment scanning through the file, trying out different LFOs, and it's just fun because you never know what you're going to get, and there's a ton of opportunities for just discovering new types of sounds in there. So that is the first technique. All right, number two, this is probably my favorite technique. And it's a lot of fun, and it's spectral processing or spectral synthesis. So my synth of choice for this technique is to use Iris 2. So let me show you what that is. All right, so this is Iris 2 by Isotope. It's a little spectral synth. Basically what you can do is you can load your own samples, up to 4 samples, and then you can like draw in certain shapes for spectral synthesis. So let me show you what that looks like. I'm just gonna load a sample in here and then we'll go from there. All right, so this is the sample I chose, sounds like this. All right, so I was rubbing, I don't exactly remember what I was rubbing, probably something like in the bathroom or something like that, and I was getting these really cool squeaky sounds. So that is what I was doing here. Like I said, what's fun about this is you can now create a whole ton of a really cool shape. So I'm just gonna use the freehand tool here to draw some stuff. So I'm just gonna click X to reset it and click on the lasso tool here. And now I can draw some like really cool shapes. Now, this is you can do pretty much anything. So here I'm just going to do some like weird, crazy stuff, and I might be able to come up with some cool things. So what it's going to actually end up doing is it's going to like cut out some parts and then leave some parts in. So with that, let's have a listen to what we have here. All right, so that's interesting. I'm going to try a different one. I find that if you use like your voice or some samples of your voice, you can get some pretty cool sounds. So let's see if this one is any good. So that one's okay. Let's see if we can try another one here. Right, so you can get some cool sounds with that. Let me show you some other examples, some other things that I've created pretty quickly using Iris 2 here. So here I used some really basic shapes. So this, I use the paint tool here, and it's basically you have a paintbrush here, so you can paint on different shapes. Here, all I did is I just put on certain dots, and now in terms of my sample here, this is my design sampling files. It's basically like this long files that I exported and designed to sample. And now, right, you can get some really cool sounds just like that. And this is like a super simple shape. Let me show you another one here. So this was done, again, same thing. This is the same exact same sampling file that I had. Again, here I'm using the lasso tool to create these kind of shapes. So I had 3 shapes, and if I play it, right, you can get a whole bunch of different sounds and textures out of it. Here's just another one just to get some ideas here, maybe flowing for you. Here it is. So here, what I basically was doing is I had a big brush here like that. And then I basically did like 5 circles. And then what you can do is if you press Alt, so I did a smaller brush here. And if you press Alt, it will erase that circle. So that's what I did. So I had a big circle to select, and then I did a smaller circle to take those out. And this is a roar, the sound that I was making for a creature pack. And it sounds like this though. Right, but hopefully you get the idea. Just playing around with different shapes, playing around with the different tools here, and just coloring and getting different things. You can like, basically it's like you get infinite possibilities. It's a lot of fun. And again, just try it out with different samples, different sounds that you have or record around your house, even just your voice. I found your voice works really great for this kind of spectral synthesis. And yeah, and the other thing that's also great about Iris 2 is it often goes on sale for like just $10. So yeah, check out for that if you don't already have it. It's really nice to have, especially if you're doing sci-fi stuff. All right, let's talk about our next technique here, which is going to be granular synthesis. So granular synthesis is really powerful because you can basically take any sound and then kind of chop them up into grains and then get some cool kind of textures and sounds out of them. And it's really great for doing some sci-fi stuff. So here is an example of that. Here I have some like wood creaking sounds that I imported into here. So if I play this. So what I did here is I changed up the grain envelope to be at 250 milliseconds. That's how long the grain's going to play for. And I made sure to have 2.81 grains. That's how many grains I'm going to have every time it kind of cycles through the grains. So if I play it now, it sounds like this. Right, so it's really easy to get these kind of like processing kind of sounds. Right, if you play too low or too slow, I'm doing right now on my keyboard, it sounds kind of weird, doesn't really work. But the higher you go, the better it can sound. So here's another example here, and this I'm using like metal, so I dropped some pieces of metal on the ground, I just recorded that. So here I'm doing a similar thing here, except my grain envelope is a lot shorter, so I'm using a lot shorter grains. And so they're playing a lot quicker here. right? And you can get these cool kind of computerish sounds. Electrical sounds even. Right, so you can get a lot of textures out of these. Here's another example. So this one is a bit more going on here. So what I did is I added an LFO, and what I'm doing is I'm modulating the position here of the start time. So it's gonna kind of cycle through this sample here, and this sample, is basically just me doing some like growling sounds and stuff for Creature sound design. So. Right, so you can get a lot of these cool textures out of it. So that is one way you can do it. Another granular synth that I really like is Patch Up Pro 2 by Steinberg. And this one is a little bit different. So it has kind of two modes. So here is the first mode. Normally when you load a sample, it might sound like this. So let's play it here. Right, nothing special here. And if you want, you can add duration so it plays a bit longer. And now you can get some cool sounds that way. Right, I like to have it in the second mode here, and I like to put the key follow just a little bit lower so that it basically plays slower as you go higher on the keyboard. And when I do that, you can get these really cool spectral kind of textures here. Right, so again, these are just like, was me rubbing two materials together, and I put it into here. I don't remember exactly what it was, but that's what it is in here. So yeah, this is the techniques I like to use for granular synthesis. Now again, it's the same thing as before, like try it out with like different samples, try it out with your voice, try it out with a whole bunch of different things, and you never know what you're gonna get, but it's a lot of fun. A few other things that I do like to do is using granular plugins or granular effects such as Portal. So Portal is probably one of my favorites just because it's so easy to use and versatile, and easy to use in the sense that there's a lot of presets. Not necessarily that if you go into like the back here that it's that easy to use. I don't think it is the easiest, but anyways. Yeah, so here I just loaded a simple preset. So let me just turn it off so we remember the sound that we're playing with here. It sounds like this. So I'm actually going to play really low here, and I'm going to turn this on. Right, so you can add a lot of these like grainy effects. I had, I think, another one here. Let's have a listen to this one. Right, so if I turn off this is Silo, by the way, by Unfiltered Audio. Again, it's kind of similar to Portal, but a bit simpler. So if I play with that sound, and then I turn this on. Right, you can get some really cool sounds that way. So yeah, playing around with these kind of granular effects and granular synthesis, you can get a lot of really cool sounds for some sci-fi UI. All right, so let's go into this fourth technique here, which I call my sound design sampling technique. This is probably one of my favorite ways to create kind of like new sound effects. And it's really simple. Basically, I just load usually a simple patch inside of a synth. It can either just be a sine wave. You could also load samples or do whatever in here. Here, I just have a simple sine wave. Right? And then I load some sort of effect plugin. So here I like to use anything by Glitch Machines because you're going to get some crazy and wacky sounds, and it's a lot of fun. So my favorite one here is Fracture XT. But like I said, you can use pretty much anything. I just like stuff that you can randomize and change up really quickly so that you can get new and different sounds really quickly. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to press record on my track, and then I'm just going to kind of print out whatever comes out. All right, and there you have it. Here's the sound file. I did a separate one here earlier, but yeah. So now what I can do is I can just go inside of Faceplant here. I can now choose a sampler. So choose a sampler. And now I can just load this file into here, click Control Alt, drag, and drop it in here. It should load it in like that. And now what I can do is I can basically just sample this file. So I'm going to increase the release a little bit. And now I can just kind of scan through here and see if there's something that I like. There's a really cool sound right there. I really like that. So I already have it printed out up here. So I can just like grab this from this global sampler here, bring it down here, and now I have my sound right here. Right, and that is basically the technique. So this is fun because with this technique you can experiment with a whole bunch of different things. Like I said before, like I was just using a simple sine wave and then putting on whatever effects. You can like stack effects together. You can do samples. You can do like whatever. Like there's kind of no limit to this, and you can be kind of creative and just see what comes out. And you never know what comes out. So this is the fourth technique that I like to use to create kind of these sci-fi sounds. All right, let's go to our fifth technique here, which is going to be to separate noise content from tonal content in a sound. So let me show you what that means and what that could look like here. So there's actually different ways you can do this. So one way is to use a free plugin called M-Ratio-MB. So this is by Melda Productions. And like I said, it's a free plugin, so you can download it. I'll make sure to put a link in the description below. And basically what you want to do is put the noise to 100, tonal to 0, and that should remove I don't know why it works that way, but it should remove the noise content and leave you only with the tonal content. So let me show you. So this is the sound I have here. It's just a glitchy sound. Okay, so with that sound now, if I remove the noise content, here's what it sounds like. Right, sounds kind of cool. You could also like start stacking these to see what kind of effects you can get. Right, you can get a bit more extreme like that. But yeah, so I'm using this here for glitch sound effects, but you can try it out with different samples. So here's some other ideas, some other things it could sound like. Right, so you can get some cool sounds that way. Now, another way that you could do this is with RX by iZotope. So here I have RX by iZotope, and here I have, again, another glitch plugin, and RX is actually going to process it quite a bit different from MB ratio. So let me show you what this sounds like. So here's the original. So here is the deconstructed sound. All right, and the way that you can do this is inside of the deconstruct module here. And here you can see here, I'm bringing the noisy gain all the way down. So basically I want to remove all the noise out of this, and I'm trying to smooth out as much as I can out of the sound here. And here we go. So you can also try out different things here. So I'm going to go back to the initial state here. I can render here without the separate transients. Now let's see what this sounds like. Let's bring this back up a little bit so it's easier to hear. So maybe I don't want like this opening section here, like the starting section. Maybe I just want something like this. Cut this out, do it like this. Let's have it listen. All right, so now we have this sound. So if we listen back to what we had at the beginning, sounds okay, but with this now, right, you can get these different textures and these different sounds out of sounds that you already have. So you can try this out with your voice. So I did that over here with my voice as well here. I'm stacking 5 of these M-Ratio-MB here. And so let me show you what that sounds like. Here's my voice recording without it. What? Okay, and now with it on. Right, so you can get these cool sounds. Again, same thing here. Right, so separating the tonal from the noise, and you can get some cool texture. So try it out, again, on different samples, experiment with that, and you should get some pretty cool results. All right, number 6 is to use Wormhole by Synaptic. So let me show you what that is. So here inside of Faceplant, I just have a simple sine wave. Okay, that's what I'm going to use just for our sound here. And here is Wormhole. So this is Wormhole by Synaptic, and basically it's like a warp and a pitch shifter and like a reverb all in one. For this technique though, I'm just going to turn off the reverb so that we're not using it. And then, yeah, so let's just play it and see what kind of sounds we can create just using this. Okay, so it sounds okay. There's two things I want to change here. One is going to be the poles here, and the other one is going to be the frequency shift map. So I'm going to bring this up a little bit here. So you can get a lot of cool sounds that way. Another thing you can change up here is the pitch shift. So here you can bring it up or down. Usually up sounds better because you're going to be getting those higher like frequencies and harmonics in there in the sound. Right, so you can get a lot of cool sounds here. You probably want to increase the release a little bit so the sounds kind of taper off a bit smoother. And then just modulating this like warp here in the middle. All right, so that's another way that you can get some cool sci-fi sounds and textures. All right, let's go on to our seventh and our final technique here, and this is going to be to use electromagnetic recording. So to use electromagnetic recording, you need special kind of microphones, and they're usually relatively inexpensive, like under $50 if I'm not mistaken. And so that's what I did. So I have a pair of these microphones, and I recorded a few different things, including my computer screen, as you can see here. And with it, you can get some really cool kind of sci-fi UI sound and textures that you can just sample and use. So this is like a completely raw recording. Let me just show you exactly what kind of sounds you can get out of it. All right, let's try a different recording here. So here's one I did of my microwave. So I'm just going to place that in here and let's have a listen. Right, so with this, I would encourage you to like experiment recording different things. Some are going to be a lot more noisy and harsh, and some are going to be like really nice and tonal. And then as you sample them, you can create some really cool sounds out of those. So if you're interested in actually picking up a free electromagnetic pack, I actually put one together. It's absolutely free. You can grab it. I'll put a link in the description right below this video if you're interested in picking it up. But yeah, so if you don't have electromagnetic microphones, you can just grab that and then start using that and get some sounds out of that. All right, so I hope you found that useful and valuable. And like I said at the beginning, there's like no right or wrong way of doing this. These are just things and techniques that I've used that have worked for me. So experiment, have fun. And if you haven't seen the first video, make sure to check it out. I'll make sure to put a link in the description or in the cards or somewhere so that you can check it out if you haven't already. And that's it for now. If you have any questions, comments, leave it down below. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.